Thanks everyone for joining us live. We are going to record this. We'll have a copy and a link sent out to everybody. So I've declined a few people's note takers. Today we're going to be talking about programming surveys and how efficient that can be, and you know, we're going to jump into it here because we're going to program a rather lengthy beast of a survey live during today's webinar, which is only 45 minutes. So why don't we kind of get moving? Jeremy, you want to say hi and introduce yourself?
Yeah. So hi, everybody. I'm Jeremy Antonek, founder and CEO of Scalafai. It's hard to believe, but I've been in market research with a focus on technology for coming up on 25 years. I cut my teeth many years ago as a project manager at a startup that was called eRewards that became Research Now, left before it became Dynata. Spent a couple years with the great folks over at what was Focus Vision at the time, and helped Rep Data go from a little startup to an emerging industry leader, and just super passionate about leveraging technology in market research.
Great. And I've been a 30-year full-service researcher with stops at GFK and Middlebrown Digital, ran insights at Hyundai for a while on the client side, some small startups like Running Box Pop Me and working at Discuss and Glow and whatnot. And I've joined Jeremy here on the Scalafai team, and I'm very excited about it. Now, this slide is really important for us and for the attendees. I want to ground everybody in what we're trying to accomplish here. We do not have a piece of software that we're trying to sell folks that is going to program your survey as quick as possible. We're not into building single-purpose tools. The survey programming that we're going to be talking about today is part of probably the only end-to-end AI native research solution where you can start at the very beginning by typing in an idea and having the AI create a survey for you. You can start here at the second step where people are uploading a survey, maybe a Word document that they finalize with their client, and we can certainly ingest all Word documents, Google Docs, etc., and program that. That's what we're going to be looking at today. But the journey within our platform doesn't end at programming the surveys, because we do have APIs with a number of large sample providers. Our quality checks are best in class or very near best in class, with 46 different quality checks before, during, and after the survey. And then once you've got solid, reliable completes, whether that's an N equals 500 or N equals 1,000, then we roll right into the tabs. We will, tabs take about a minute and a half, waiting, confidence testing, stat testing, and then our next webinar will be on AI automated deliverables, where we're able to produce full PowerPoint outputs in under 30 minutes, infographics in about 30 seconds. So we are really trying to disrupt the entire research process and give market researchers an opportunity to be curious again and not wasting a lot of time on a lot of these manual tasks. And that's where AI comes in. And this is the survey that Jeremy's going to kick off now, and then we'll get to a couple of other slides. But this certainly is not a softball survey for GymFlam. 67 total questions, 48 logic conditions, got condition triggers, we've got randomization going on here, we've got grid questions, single select grid, multi-select grid, variables, we've got, looking at behavioral logic, timing checks, attention traps, QC flags, to catch straight liners and speeders. This, again, is not a softball survey. So, Jeremy, do you want to kind of take over the screen share and show everyone what we're looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. And this slide is probably the single most slide. We hear, oh, but our surveys are complex or our surveys are custom. And that's really why we went through and built the platform, is to be able to handle those really complex surveys with calculated variables, with max diffs. We don't have conjoints yet, but that'll be out in about 60 days. So there's some really exciting stuff that is there today already and coming down the pipe. Okay, so everybody see Scalafai Studio?
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. So this is the platform for today. We're going to focus on the process of creating a new survey. As being suggested, this platform can take you with the full end-to-end process, or you can kind of pop in and out as needed. It's built to be very modular, with chat along the way. It makes it easier to use, where you can just ask for things in plain English. But for the purpose of today, we're going to go through and create a new survey. All right, so I'm just going to open this in an existing project. And you've got a couple options here. I could generate the survey from scratch with AI, actually writing the survey. I could truly start it from scratch with just, hey, here's a blank screen where you can start adding questions and answers. By far, the easy button and the focus of today is we're going to import a Word document. Before I even trigger that process, let me pull up the document here. So this is our GIMP5 project here. We've got format is probably reasonably similar to what you've seen. Obviously, there's a lot of variations in the way clients write surveys. So that is frankly part of the complexity here, and part of the reason why some of the newer AI models are so important, because things like, hey, blue text is programming language, red text is terminate language. That's the way this particular one was done. We see lots of other variations. Something as simple as the terminate. Here, it's the answers are written in kind of these boxes. The terminate, a lot of times we'll see no thanks with terminate written into that, right? So, if you've worked in market research, and certainly if you've ever programmed a survey, the devil is in these little minute details. And so there's been a tremendous amount of time and effort to go through and pick up on these. Something like this, logic based upon device type. Right, so with a lot of these things, the AI is going to go through and pick up. You've got your terminate logic here. We've got codes and hidden variables. We've got some lookup fields. So once the user enters their postal code, we want the platform to go look up and punch state and region. And the list goes on and on. We're not going to go through the entire survey, but just kind of want to give you a feel for the input that is going to go into Studio, that is the Word document. So let's get this kicked off. So super simple. This is the document that I had previously. This is going to go through, upload that document, and then pretty shortly we'll see a progress bar kick off. This process, there's actually a lot that's going on. From a data perspective, a Word document is probably one of the most messy data storage sources that you'll see. There's a lot of things we had to do to basically prepare the data so that AI could read it and give us a consistent output. Something like in Word, there's track changes. a standard Word document has all of that track change history embedded in it. And if you try to throw that to the AI, it's going to get completely overwhelmed very quickly. So I'm not going to walk you through all of this stuff, but there's just some very clear structure of cataloging questions and options and extracting the content, and then taking that content and actually building the survey with the questions, the question types, the answers, checking the work, and then what we'll get out of this is a confirmation screen. And while this will take probably 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes to run, it was taking, last time we timed it officially, it was taking 23 minutes, but even in the last couple of days, our engineering team has had some improvements to make the process run even faster. So,
to be clear, we have to standardize a lot of this for the programming to work, but you don't have to standardize your Word document. So it's important to point out that we'll just take, whatever Word document you have that, you've traditionally been using with your different clients, and you don't have to put the questions in a certain way or use certain scales or certain instructions. The AI is smart enough to look at the survey in totality and understand kind of what you're trying to do with that question.
Yep. And you can see it's moved on to the extracting phase, and now it's actually extracting question by question. So started at 1 of 67, we're already on 4 of 67. I'm going to go ahead and kick this back to Dean, and then we will come back to this once the process is finished.
All right. So, programming surveys has always been slow and expensive. I don't know anyone who loves programming surveys. When I was running Insights at Hyundai, we had a Qualtrics license. I was getting my hands dirty. I was in there programming. And I've told this story a couple of times. There's plenty of studies where I would kick it off with a sample coming through, go to look at tabs, and see, a question or two with 0 completes because, the skip pattern was off, and I went and added an extra question. The skip pattern, didn't stay with me and whatnot. These were the early days of Qualtrics. I'm sure they fixed it. But, today, most agencies are outsourcing, survey programming to India, to the Philippines, to Eastern Europe. It takes 2 to 3 days, maybe 4 days. There's some back and forth. There's questions. Dealing with typically folks overseas, and it's $2,000 to $3,000 to program a survey. If you're doing it in house and you're putting a junior analyst on it, it's still probably a 3-day process for them to get it exactly right. And with Scalafai, we're going to see that the programming is going to take mere minutes. It's $300, maybe even less than that per survey to program. So we're really bringing down the cost. We're going to talk about adversarial AI and how that helps with quality soon. And then it makes basically same-day launches possible for your clients. So there's no bottleneck here as far as survey programming. You can have the link to the client by noon and have them sign off and ready to go by the end of the day.
All right. So the process we've taken a look at so far, and by the way, we're on question 49 of 67 extracted, so we're making solid progress. So we took a look at step 1 of uploading the Word document. We're in the process of step 2 now, where the AI is parsing and programming the content. Things that we found really important is we know AI, while it can do some amazing things, it can also make mistakes. If given insufficient data or unrealistic expectations, it can hallucinate, right? So we said, okay, let's assume that to be true, and there's some things we're doing to counterbalance those, but let's just say that is a given fact. How do we manage against that? And one of the ways that we do this is what we call an adversarial QA. Now, normally I would tell you, hey, I'm an eternal optimist, the glass is half full, I'm going to try to find a solution, and I don't want to go to negative town. But QA is one of the things where it is more productive in the long run to say, let's have the AI assume that it's programmed wrong. And let's declare that it's right only when this adversarial QA can go through it. So it's a second AI agent, a completely separate agent that is going through, looking at the work, assuming that it's wrong, looking at the question, say, okay, I see this one's a single select. I'm going to assume it's not. Oh, I see it is a single select. Great. Let's check that one and let's move to the next one. So that one can catch and fix a lot of the mistakes, and the mistakes are pretty few and far between at this point. Or if it can't fix them automatically, it can tee up a list of things that need to be addressed for step 4, which is the human review. One of the things that we're trying to do is say, look, we're not trying to automate the human research process. We're trying to drive, automation and simplification in some of the task execution, right? So we're going through and saying, okay, if a researcher can go nice, survey preview tools where I can go through, I can see the pre-codes, I can toggle. You have pretty much 99% of what you need. You know the survey link, you know the quotas, you know the terminate logic, right? The only thing, you know the LOI, you can estimate the incidence. The only thing you need to enter is really your buy price, right? And so with that, you can be live in field in literally a matter of minutes once you've completed step 4. Okay. One of the questions we get a lot is, well, this AI, how is this different from like a ChatGPT? How is this different from Claude and some other tools? I love Claude as much as anybody. I use it extensively in my day-to-day work. But when it comes to Studio, we said, okay, there are some things that are very specific to market research because, again, the devil is in the details, right? So, we said, okay, we want our AI to be trained on specific market research methodology and standards. It needs to, if it's writing the survey for you, for example, it needs to know what does good survey design look like, right? It will never write, in Studio, it will never write, are you the CEO of a Fortune 1000 company? Yes or no. If you've ever fielded a B2B project, you can imagine what kind of data quality you're going to get with that horribly designed screener question. It's not going to write, what do you think of our price and our quality, right? That's what the designers would call a double-barreled question. You're trying to measure two very different attributes in one question. Horrible design, right? So all of that information is built into the AI with the intent of when that AI agent completes a task for you, you're not having to go in and manually fix and correct the work. Because every time you do that, then now you're losing your time. You're losing that productivity that you were trying to recapture.
Yeah. Love it. Let's pick it up a bit, Jeremy.
Okay. All right. I basically just spoke to this one. So we can go to the next one. Okay. One of the litmus tests was there's a lot of ambiguities in these surveys, right? So something as simple as if you see a question of do you do this or this or that, please select all that apply. I've seen plenty of surveys where there's nothing in there that says question type equals multi-select, right? And so if you sent that document to a senior survey programmer, even though the client didn't explicitly state that question type is a multi-select, I prefer right? And so this is as we're building. and then only size length. All right, yeah, it's done. So just let me know when you're. Okay. Was that the context? Very, very, very conceptual, critical issue. Than the significant accuracy, and we obviously now, one of the things I want to mention as going through, and we have the particular question is indeed a multi-select or platform learn that so that the AI starts to become a really, really important thing, and a hot topic that I've seen on LinkedIn is there are organizations that have been using survey data to train their AI to serve all of their prospective clients. Something we absolutely do not do. If you go to our website, look at our terms and conditions, a very crystal clear line. We do not train our models on your data for the purpose of benefiting other customers, right? We will do some training for the purpose of providing you with better service, but that only applies to your particular environment.
Yeah. Let's see. And then, we have spent some time in the last webinar, this webinar, what does the market researcher do next? So coming off their plate, what does that leave them time to do? Well, it leaves them time to be orchestrator. And, a lot of discussion. So I'm in a bunch of different I think we just need the market researcher is going to have to be more and more willing to sit alongside counterparts within an organization from the sales department, from innovation, from marketing, and help them make decisions. If I had my insights team at Hyundai again, I would dealer development. I'd put 2 in parts and service. marketing and so on and so forth, that I actually have freeze solution. It's important. Where there's, data in Excel for a couple. That's why we're trying to take this whole
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I just sent you the share request. Okay, so you see a little confirmation survey created?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. So,
And a party horn.
What's that?
And a party horn.
Yeah, party horn. So, yeah, we got a little celebration here. So we've imported the Gemfly survey. We've got 67 questions, 404 options, logic conditions, computed variables, and let's take a quick look at what the survey looks like in the survey builder. I'm going to collapse our sidebar there. All right, so here on the left, you can see I've got the content has been imported into the different pages. I can kind of scroll through those up and down here. I can see I've got a bunch of questions, single select, multi-select. We've got some grids. I've got a bunch of computed variables at the bottom here. So I can go through, I can launch a QA process. I'm not going to do that in the interest of time here. Or I can also just, preview the survey. This one's pretty basic formatting. I can add graphics and other colors to make this a little bit more appealing. I can toggle pre-codes. I can toggle logic. I can toggle any variables that are in there, right? And then just go through and punch through the survey. And then from here, it's very easy. I can make edits, if I want to make edits to that. I can also do those. You may have noticed that there's this chat bar that's kind of persistent through the application here. One of the things that I learned and experienced, running market research operations is going through platform changes can be painful. Back in roughly 2014, 2015 at Research Now, we moved from Confirm It to Decipher, and frankly, that was painful. Now we had a big operation. We had 1,300 employees spread across the globe, and we got through it. But all of the little details of learning. Okay, I need to go click this button. I need to set this setting. I need to select that drop down. I need to access that tab. Right? All of those things are just complexity in the UX, and in custom market research, there can be a lot of complexity. So one of the things that we've done to make it easier for people is say, look, can you speak plain English, right? So if I want to insert a question or change text, I can do that by when I can simply come into the chat and just say, add an ethnicity to that. So we're making it relatively easy. Let me scroll down. Anything else I want?
Could you demonstrate that? Like adding in a question like that to the AI chat, just like, does it type it in a place that makes sense from a sequencing perspective? Like, does it update the logic and all of that that comes in as well, your quotas, et cetera?
It can. So yeah. So let's see. I'm running this one on my local machine, I believe. Yeah. So the AI is not going to be active in this environment in terms of the chat. But yeah, I could literally say after insert an ethnicity question after S10, and then it will go through and draft the question. Basically the same. You can see if I kind of mouse over here and I want to say, hey, I want to add a single select question. Then I can go through and edit as if I had dropped that in. So it would literally be the same end result as if I had gone through and clicked to insert the question itself.
Anything else, Jeremy, you want to show, or should we go into the questions?
Yeah, let's go into the questions.
All right, Demi, you got some questions for us? We've got some questions in the chat too, but we had some questions already lined up.
Right. The first question is, what QA is in place and how necessary is it to human test a survey that AI programs?
So the QA portion of it, the automated portion of it, is the adversarial AI that we mentioned earlier, and that's basically very much like you would have in best practices in a survey operations. You've got your survey programmer, and you've got a separate person that does QA. We've basically taken the same approach. We've got an AI agent that programs the survey, and then we have a separate AI agent that performs that QA, and it's starting with what we call an adversarial. So it's assume it's wrong until the system can look at the actual data, compare that to the programming specs, and then declare whether it's right or it's wrong and give you that feedback. The AI can do some pretty amazing things, but at the end of the day, with any AI tool, not just Scalafai technology, but any AI in general, for me personally, it's the human still needs to be the ultimate owner, right? If we go out and we launch a survey and it makes a mistake, we can't sort of say, oh, well, the AI made a mistake, right? As humans, we need to go through and take accountability for the content that we're declaring to be complete, whether we did it personally or whether we had an AI help us complete with those tasks.
Were there any exceptions, Jeremy, on that one that we programmed where the human researcher would have to go in and kind of decide?
Not for this one.
Okay.
This one, I kind of skipped that for just in the sake of time.
Yeah. All right, we've got a question in the chat that we want to answer real quick. It's a good one. Does the software work for emails, text surveys, and are there tools for sending those emails, capture list data, etc.?
Yeah, yes, is the short answer. For the email integration, we've done a lot of work with both market research agencies as well as corporate brand teams, and especially on the brand team side where they've got a customer list or some other type of list that they're working with and they want to do survey research. So behind the scenes here, there's integration with an enterprise grade bulk email engine. So it's not just loading up some lists and sending them. It's actually full integration with an enterprise grade tool called Mailgun behind the scene that's got all of the things that you need to do to operate successfully, and not just say I sent the emails, but deliver the emails ideally to the inbox, not the spam folder, not the junk folder, not the social folder in mail. For text, we do not have the engine to send the actual text invitations yet. That's coming later this year. But it is very easy to take the survey link, and then if you want to create unique respondent IDs or pass variables and drop that into a text communications platform, it's very, very easy to do that.
Debbie, next question.
Righty. The next question is, does it require a certain format?
I think we've answered that earlier. The format doesn't matter. Don't change how you do your Word documents. We can handle it. What's the next question?
How does AI suggest wording or scale improvements based on study goals?
So we're at the moment, the two are kind of separated. We haven't. We at the moment, the platform will either write the survey from you from scratch, or it will take the Word document and improve that. I've had maybe one person ask, "Hey, can you take the Word document that the team has already spent hours reviewing and discussing and debating, and then recommend improvements to that?" We plan on building that feature, but we just frankly haven't prioritized it because most of the time, if you've got a Word document and we declare that it's ready for programming, then that's what needs to be programmed. Or if the user is open to more of that consultation, they'll have the AI write it from scratch. But that's certainly a feature that we do plan on building, because I agree that would be nice to have.
Yeah, there's a question here. Can the system automatically run some responses through? So I know we've got the option to run bots through the survey, right, Jeremy, just to see that all the patterns are working and see some data being populated in the platform.
Yeah. So we've got, the AI will build the survey, we'll run that adversarial QA. We have the ability to run test bots through, so you can say, hey, I want to simulate 400 survey respondents and push them through and then look at the data. We haven't automated the data check part of it yet, where we'll go through, I think, as you're suggesting, and saying, okay, let's look at the data, and if the respondent said S3 equals 5 and S3 5 is a turn point, were they actually terminated? So we haven't automated that yet, but that is on the roadmap.
Demi, one more question.
Right. The next question, how do I retrieve data from the platform?
So it's a matter of exporting the file, and you can export. You can export a Word version which has all of the detailed programming instructions that have been standardized, or if you want to export your survey data, all the standards, SPSS, Excel, CSV.
What was the quality score of the one that you just ran through, Jeremy?
Oh, that one, I don't have that displayed in the UI. That one's 97%. The 3%, that particular survey, there are graphics embedded into the Word document. We haven't automated the extraction and loading of those graphics yet. So that's like coming in the next 2 weeks. So.
Okay, yeah. We'll have a fix for that. Well, great questions, everyone. Just as a wrap up, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We've got an offer for live attendees. So, we are happy to take a Word document that you have. Maybe it was from a survey you launched a month ago or 2 months ago, a recent one. We're happy to program it on our platform and provide you with a free success output. We could also provide you with a survey preview link so you can go through what our survey experience looks like. Or for a limited time, we're also offering webinar attendees what we call a retro study. So, we'll look at a study again that you've just recently run, and we'll actually put it through our entire system. So not only will we take a Word doc and upload it into our platform, but we'll take our responses or even final tabulations and import them to our platform so that you can see what our updating and then certainly infographic for top lines and PowerPoint presentations as well. So we'll basically at no risk to you a full study that you've run, and hopefully that way you can, see how team.
Yeah, and that pretty much Qualtrics, Decipher, question things to get the weird data format. Like we just talked.
Recording, you could certainly fully inexpensive right now. So we're up
That was great.